Every day, millions of people wake up with good intentions. They say, tomorrow I'll change, I'll wake up early, I'll eat better, I'll finally chase my dream. But tomorrow comes, and nothing changes. Why? Because motivation burns fast, like a spark that lights up the dark and dies before it reaches the wood. Real change doesn't come from excitement. It comes from the quiet, daily act of discipline. Today's story is about a young man who learned that lesson not from books, not from a speech, but from a dying fire in a blacksmith's workshop. In a misty valley in the countryside of Oregon, there was a small town called Rustfield. It was known for two things: its cold mornings and its hardworking blacksmiths. Among them lived a 17-year-old boy named Caleb Reed. Caleb lived with his mother and his younger sister, Emma. His father, once a respected blacksmith, had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving behind a small forge that hadn't burned since. Though Caleb inherited his father's tools, he didn't inherit his discipline. He dreamed of becoming a craftsman like his father, strong, skilled, and admired. But every time he started working, he quit halfway. He was full of motivation for a day, maybe two, then it was gone. He wanted to be great, but he lacked consistency. Every morning, Caleb would promise himself, "I'll work hard today." But the cold would bite at his hands, and he'd stay in bed a little longer. He'd tell himself, "I'll start after lunch." By sunset, the forge remained cold. His mother often said softly, "Your father's fire never went out, even on the coldest nights." Caleb would smile politely, but say nothing. Inside, he felt ashamed. He missed his father deeply. But more than that, he missed having a purpose. One evening, as the rain poured down and thunder rolled over Rustfield, a stranger appeared at their door. He was an old man with rough hands and a leather coat soaked through from the storm. He introduced himself as Mr. Hawthorne, a traveling merchant whose horse needed a new horseshoe. Caleb hesitated. "Sir, I don't really forge anymore." Mr. Hawthorne looked around at the cold, silent anvil and said, "That's a shame. A silent forge is like a heart that stopped beating." Something in that line pierced Caleb's heart. He decided to try. For the first time in months, he lit the forge. The flames flickered weakly, as if unsure whether they should stay alive. Caleb began to shape the metal clumsily. His hammer strikes were off rhythm. Sparks flew, but not in beauty. His arms ached. His hands trembled. The old man watched quietly. Finally, Caleb dropped the hammer, exhausted and embarrassed. "I can't do this anymore. I've lost it." Mr. Hawthorne smiled faintly and said, "You haven't lost it, boy. You've just forgotten how to stay long enough in the fire." He pointed to the weak flame of the forge and added, "This fire doesn't burn strong because you keep walking away. Every time you stop, it dies. Every time you return, you must start over." Then he said something that would stay with Caleb forever. Motivation starts the fire. Discipline keeps it burning. The next morning, the rain had stopped. Mr. Hawthorne was gone, but his words weren't. Caleb looked at the forge. The coals were dark. The air was cold. But he remembered the phrase. He struck a match. That day, he decided to relight the forge, not just once, but every day, even if it was for only an hour, even if he was tired, even if no one was watching. He made himself a deal. 30 days. No excuses. At first, it was miserable. His hands blistered. His back ached. The metal resisted him. The villagers laughed. They said the boy was chasing his father's shadow. But Caleb didn't stop. Each day, he woke up before dawn, cleaned the ashes, and rebuilt the flame. At night, when everyone else was asleep, the glow of his forge could be seen from the road like a heartbeat pulsing in the dark. And slowly, the metal began to obey him again. On the 17th day, a heavy storm swept through Rustfield. The wind howled, the rain flooded the street. Caleb stood by the forge, holding the tongs in his trembling hand. The fire sputtered and died. For a long moment, he stared at the black coals. His mind whispered, "It's okay to rest. Just skip one day." But then he remembered his father and the stranger's voice. If you stop feeding the fire, it dies. So Caleb wrapped himself in an old blanket, shielded the forge with his body, and relit it in the storm. That night, as lightning flashed across the sky, the forge burned brighter than ever. Weeks passed. The villagers began to notice something. Caleb's horseshoes were smoother, his knives sharper, his metalwork cleaner. One farmer came to him for a plow, then another for a gate hinge. Word spread. Caleb's forge became the warmest place in Rustfield. But inside, Caleb still felt unsatisfied. He wasn't proud yet. He wanted to create something worthy of his father's name. One day, a royal messenger arrived in Rustfield with a challenge. The king's soldiers needed new swords, and blacksmiths across the country were invited to compete. The prize? A gold seal from the royal court, and enough money to rebuild any forge in the kingdom. Caleb hesitated. Competing against the great blacksmiths of the capital felt impossible. But his mother looked at him and said, "Your father would have tried. You should too." Caleb worked harder than ever before. He studied old designs, practiced every stroke, and refined his technique. But as the competition drew near, exhaustion crept in. He barely slept. His arms throbbed. He burned his fingers more than once. One evening, Emma, his little sister, sat by him and said, "Why don't you rest, Caleb? You've done enough." He smiled and replied softly, "The tree that grows tall doesn't stop when the rain falls." She didn't understand, but she smiled anyway. When Caleb arrived at the royal foundry, he saw massive forges glowing red. Dozens of master blacksmiths hammered steel like thunder. His tools looked small, his anvil humble, but he focused. He didn't rush. He didn't try to impress anyone. For 3 days, he worked quietly, just as he had done at home, one hammer strike at a time. While others showed off, Caleb's fire burned steady and calm. On the final day, the judges examined each sword. They passed over many with polite nods. When they reached Caleb's, they stopped. His blade gleamed with a faint blue sheen, perfectly balanced, beautifully forged. The chief judge asked, "Young man, what keeps your fire so steady?" Caleb replied, "Discipline, sir, the kind that burns even when no one is watching." The hall fell silent. Then applause filled the room. Caleb returned to Rustfield with the royal seal and a new purpose. But more importantly, he returned with something deeper. He no longer chased motivation. He no longer waited for the right mood. He understood that greatness isn't born in excitement, it's built in repetition. Every morning he relit the forge. Every night he let the fire fade naturally, never by neglect. His father's legacy was no longer a memory. It lived again in every spark. Years later, Caleb became the master blacksmith of Rustfield. Apprentices from across the region came to learn from him. And every time a young student asked, "Sir, how do I stay motivated?" Caleb would point to the forge and say, "Don't chase the spark, build the flame." He'd pause, smile, and add, "Motivation gets you started, discipline gets you there." And when the night came and the forge glowed against the dark hills, the townsfolk often said, "The reed forge never sleeps. Its fire is alive, just like the man who keeps it burning." In life, we all have our own forge. It might be your work, your art, your health, or your dream. The fire will fade many times. You'll be tempted to rest, to wait, to quit. But remember, the greatest fire is not the one that burns the brightest, but the one that never goes out. So keep going. Even when the world is cold, keep feeding your flame, because one day it won't just warm you, it will light the path for others too.